Well, you know, this studying at the new school, of course, presented some difficulties because my English was not perfect. Not that it's now, but I mean, it wasn't as perfect as it is now. And, you know, that was just something that was very important to me because language was really, uh, you know, in Germany, in Austria, uh, in a class of 35 people, I was the best one in the German language. And I did a lot of writing and speaking and what have you. And this language, you know, my mother language, I think that's the expression, was taken away from me by the Nazis. Brutally taken away from me. And I had to start in a completely new language, you know. It's not easy. So when I went to school, to new school, I was speaking English, but not you know, not as well as I do now, let's say. And I remember taking a course with the former finance minister of pre-Hitler Austria, who was, of course, also an immigrant. Though, by the way, he was not Jewish. I don't think he was Jewish. But there were also non-Jews that left or had to leave. And he gave a class on foreign policy, something, foreign minister. And I was a part of that class. The class met at 6 o'clock at night at the new school. I had come from a day's work, hard work, as a tool and die maker apprentice in New Jersey. I was very tired. So in this class of 8 people, when he spoke to us in fairly broken English, I fell asleep. And this happened every week. Once a week we had class, once a week I fell asleep in the class. And I remember that poor man, how at the end of the class he would always look at me. You know, I mean, how can you do this? How can you go to sleep in my class? Anyway, so that was one of the problems of, you know, adjusting to a new reality. But as time went by, I did it. Now, speaking about my book, Film as a Subversive Art, I didn't mean to want to say even that all films are by nature subversive or whatever, society or morals or whatever. But what I did want to do is to point out that there was a very large group of films that had to be looked at as being subversive of existing realities, be they social or sexual or whatever. They were simply, by the very nature of their being, they were doing something that nobody else was doing, or they were dealing with forbidden subject matter, or they were dealing with uncomfortable subject matter, you know, political, let's say, that in general were not being talked about. I wouldn't hesitate about showing any of such films. And I think this contributed to the success of Cinema 16 as well. So I came to the conclusion that I had not really seen any kind of book about film as a subversive art. And I felt that with my very broad outlook, you know, which went from avant-garde to political cinema, to Nazi cinema, to psychological studies about rats who were given alcohol to drink and what they did as a result. I mean, that this was such a broad way of looking at it, that there was also a book that could be written about it. And I went through my files and looked at all the film titles I could remember and the descriptions that we had in our program notes or that I found in books or whatever. And I put this all together and structured it, I think, properly. And that's how this book was born, and I feel that it was something that had to be done. And since that time, there have been some other books that have attempted to deal with these realities as well. And I'm happy that, in a sense, I started a trend even there. I wanted to show you how, when you look at the title of the book, you see, the front page of the book, that to me is a subversive image. It comes from a film by that great Yugoslav director Dusan Makavejev. And see this young lady here? Attractive. Look how her head is encased as if it was a part of a motion picture still. Then the way the arm is stretched out, the chair with this animal on it, and this is all in one picture. This is obviously not a realistic picture. There's something strange about it, and that is, of course, why the filmmaker had this scene in the film, and that is also precisely why I chose it to be the cover of my book. And now when I show you the end of the book, we have a very subversive still here, where I love that. You see that originally this was a screen on which said fin, which means it's the end, and it's the end of the book. But a man breaks through the screen. What this really means is that this is not the end of the book. The subversion continues. And of course that makes me personally very happy. I'm quite aware of the difficulties that many people face when they see experimental avant-garde films, because they're so different from the usual film that they get to see, which is a very straightforward kind of thing, and which contains very little mystery. On the other hand, with the experimental films, the spectator has to constantly be on guard. There are always unexpected things happening. There are jumps. The continuity is not smooth. But as a matter of fact, I think it's possible to gain greater insights and a greater understanding of the fabric of life, really, in such films than there is in the very obvious type of Hollywood film. And I've always made it my task to not only see such films, but to make others see them. And it's something like going to the Museum of Modern Art here in New York, or going to any museum of modern art. You will see surrealist, expressionist, abstract paintings or sculptures or what have you, constructions, that are very different from what you ordinarily get to see. And that's precisely why they're important to me. And I think if people expose themselves to them, they will be affected by them. I've always felt that.